Men's heads and women's feet can be seen but not touched. Such sayings are commonly passed down among the people. They are representative of popular culture, containing the wisdom of past generations and the lessons drawn from their daily lives. Although proverbs may lack the elegance of poetry or prose, they have been passed down and preserved for thousands of years, quietly admired by generations for every word they hold. The saying, "A man's head and a woman's feet can be seen but not touched," is also one of the proverbs rich in profound meaning passed down by those who came before us. Why is it said this way? In the past, men often kept their hair long, while most women bound their small feet. This, in turn, caused inconvenience in movement and usually prevented them from running around freely. In the eyes of people in ancient times, a man's head was considered the most important part of the body. Only close relatives or elders were allowed to touch a child's head. When someone who was not close touched a man's head, it was seen as disrespectful, even as a sign of contempt. In ancient times, a person's social status was also reflected through the clothes and hat they wore. The hat worn on the head carried a great deal of meaning, so touching a man's head casually was unacceptable, as it symbolized his sense of dignity. If someone touched them casually, it was considered a serious insult. The same applied to women. Back then, a woman's feet were also highly valued. When a woman was washing her feet, she couldn't let others see, let alone touch them. People often referred to 3-inch golden lotuses, reflecting the beauty standards of that time. Of course, the foot binding practice was later abolished, but even today, women still take great care of their feet. They often use various skincare products to prevent issues like cracked or peeling skin on their feet. That's why, for women, their feet are just as important as a man's head. Both should not be touched. In addition, some believe that a man's head, a woman's feet, and the waist are all parts of the body where good fortune gathers. If someone touches them, it's believed that good fortune can easily be lost. So if a person is able to touch a man's head or a woman's feet, it means their relationship must be very close. Still, it is considered inappropriate, as people in the past often upheld the belief that men and women should not touch each other casually. Of course, with the changes in society, modern thinking has become very different from before. Nowadays, when men and women interact, they freely pat each other on the shoulder. Among friends, it's common to touch faces, sometimes even heads, or hug around the waist. However, in public, there are still boundaries. Men should not touch heads, and women should not touch feet. This remains a taboo in social etiquette in many places. A moment of carelessness can easily be mistaken as an offense to a man's pride or as sexual harassment toward a woman. Do not lose your integrity over a small gain. In life, even if you lose everything, never lose your character. The following story is a powerful lesson for anyone thinking of trading away their true self. In a small town in the South, there was a fish stall in the market. Buyers would often line up in long queues, and business was unusually successful because this fish stall was known for its exceptional freshness. The owner was even planning to open a new chain. He was a man in his 50s. During a casual conversation, he shared that his business in the past had only been enough to support his family, and the turning point came thanks to a special customer. After lighting a cigarette, he told us a story. About 5 years ago, a young boy around 7 or 8 years old came to the market to buy vegetables. He looked troubled and stopped in front of the fish stall. "Mister, can you sell me 2 butterfish?" The stall owner glanced at the boy, scooped out 2 fish, and began to weigh them. The boy fumbled in his pocket for a while before finally pulling out a 100 yuan bill. "Is that lucky money and you didn't want to spend it?" the shop owner joked. The boy's cheeks turned red. 36 yuan, the stall owner said as he reached for the bill and gave the boy 64 yuan in change. After taking the change, the boy grabbed the fish and money and quickly left. Unexpectedly, he came back the next day. "My mom was admitted to the hospital today," he said, startling the shop owner. "She's sick and had surgery today. Yesterday, I bought her the butterfish she loves most. I was afraid she might never get the chance to eat it again. But after she finished eating, she said something to me. It's not worth losing your integrity over a small gain." The boy shyly pulled a crisp 100 yuan bill from his pocket and respectfully handed it to the shop owner with both hands. "Mister, I'm sorry. The money I used yesterday was fake. This one is real." The fish stall owner was stunned, completely caught off guard by this outcome. He recalled that just the day before, he never would have suspected that such an honest-looking boy could have used a counterfeit 100 yuan bill to buy something. The boy lowered his head in shame. "Thank you, sir. This fake bill was something my mom received a long time ago and had kept in a drawer. She got sick and used up all the money we had saved. Wanting to help her save 100 yuan, I hid it from her and secretly used the fake bill to buy the fish. Thank you for not getting angry at me." The stall owner felt as if something had just broken inside him, a feeling that was hard to describe. He took the fake bill out of the drawer and handed it back to the boy. The boy bowed and walked away. Watching the boy's figure fade into the distance, the stall owner remained lost in thought for a long time. Finally, when it was time to close up shop, while no one was paying attention, he took more than a dozen sea fish that had been soaked in formalin, a chemical used to preserve, disinfect, and bleach for over a week beneath the stall, and threw them all into the trash bin. Later on, the boy's mother passed away from her illness. The boy returned to his hometown to continue his studies. The fish stall owner never saw him again, but whenever he thought of that boy and the mother he had never met, his cheeks would flush with emotion. The wisdom of that remarkable mother not only guided her son back to the path of moral integrity, teaching him to become a good person, but also had the power to move and inspire others. She truly was a remarkable mother. 23. Involvement. Confucius had a student named Mo, a native of the state of Deng. Mo was an average student, but always considered himself the best. After studying for a few years, he asked to return to his homeland, believing he had already mastered his teacher's teachings. Zigong, noticing this, asked, "If that man returns to his country and becomes an official, will it be all right?" Confucius tapped his knee and replied, "It will be fine." Zigong asked again, "Would it be acceptable if he became a general?" Confucius stroked his beard and replied, "That's fine." He was asked again, "What if he becomes a rebel?" Confucius, mid-yawn, answered, "Still not a problem." At that point, Zigong felt reassured and casually mentioned that Mo had only asked to return home to become a teacher. Upon hearing that, Confucius suddenly jolted upright. He didn't have time to put on his shoes or button his robe. He rushed out the gate, running in a panic. The student ran after him and asked, "Master, where are you going?" Confucius replied while running, "To the state of Deng." The student asked again, "Why are you going to Deng?" Still running, Confucius answered, "To stop Mo from becoming a teacher. If he becomes an official, at most he'll harm a district. If he becomes a general, he might ruin a city. Even if he turns into a rebel, he might not hurt anyone. But if he becomes a teacher, he could cause harm for generations to come. Even I might not escape the consequences." 24. Idleness is the most frightening thing. In life, one must strive to reach their highest potential, and even more so, must never allow themselves to become idle. The famous Chinese writer Shen Kongwen once said, "What I fear most in life is letting myself grow idle and losing the meaning of living." His student, Wang Zhengqi, once described Shen Kongwen in an article like this: "During winter, with no fire in the house for warmth, he wrapped himself in a cotton blanket and kept on writing. Even in the final years of his life, he refused to spend time resting and instead compiled the book Studies on Ancient Chinese Clothing, which he created by consulting a vast amount of material and conducting extensive research. He kept writing while many others were enjoying life, and he kept writing even when people questioned and criticized him. Let busyness become the normal state of life. That is the only way to truly understand its value." 25. Forget the favors you've done for others. There's an old saying that goes, "If you expect something in return, don't offer kindness. If you offer kindness, don't expect something in return." But in life, there are some people who, after offering a helping hand, immediately feel that the other person owes them a debt of gratitude. They constantly expect others to be thankful and to repay them. In front of others, they often put on an arrogant attitude and show little respect. Once or twice may be tolerable, but if it happens repeatedly, even those who once received great favors from them will start to feel uncomfortable. As a result, that person becomes even more uneasy, believing the other party to be ungrateful and feeling that their kindness was wasted. They grow disappointed, upset, and even resentful, filled with frustration and sorrow. Helping others is supposed to be a good deed, but when one keeps dwelling on it and holding it in their heart, it turns into a burden that makes it impossible to live happily and at ease. Everyone, at some point, will need a helping hand from others. So try to remember the help you've received a little more and think a little less about the favors you've given. Your life will feel much lighter. 26. A life of too much idleness is truly a disaster. The Austrian writer Stefan Zweig once said, "Every gift given by fate carries a hidden price." There was a man in England who went from being a poor garbage collector to a millionaire after winning a prize. He quit his job and began spending recklessly on luxury cars, drugs, prostitution, and gambling. In just 7 years, he burned through £9.7 million and ended up destitute, abandoned by both his wife and daughter. Clearly, material wealth can only satisfy a person's happiness for a brief moment. When people live in indulgence and pleasure, it becomes very difficult for them to recognize true happiness that comes from the heart. While idleness may bring you joy for a short time, that emptiness will keep repeating itself. One day, it will leave you feeling bored and unfulfilled. Being busy can be exhausting, but if you know how to manage your time by breaking it into smaller parts, it can allow you to achieve many things, such as wealth, happiness, and a sense of fulfillment within. Over the course of several decades of life, we should leave something behind for this world. Never treat idleness as a gift from above. The things that bring you pleasure and joy today may one day destroy you. Of course, being too busy or too idle is never ideal. Find rest within busyness and find activity within rest. Having something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to, that is the most complete state of life. When you begin to understand how to cherish time, to make use of it wisely, and to manage it effectively, it means you are extending your own life and increasing the value of your existence. Living life to the fullest means never giving up through any stage of our journey. 27. The kind teacher. There was a student whose family was very poor when he was a child. They didn't even have a place to bathe. So during the summer, whenever he wanted to take a bath, he had to go down to the river. Especially in the winter, when the river water was freezing cold, he often had to spend a long time bathing before he could finish. One day, the school assigned a new homeroom teacher to his class. Because the teacher was busy with work, he often asked the boy and another student to come to his house and help him burn charcoal. After they finished, the teacher would usually let them take a hot shower as a thank you before heading home. And the student, every time he got to help the teacher like that, always felt very happy. And naturally, the teacher continued to ask for his help often. Many years later, at a party, the once poor student had achieved some success in his career. He proudly bragged to everyone about the things he had done in the past, clearly pleased with himself. At the end of the party, the homeroom teacher's daughter, who had also been there, sent him a message. "Actually, my father didn't ask you to do that work because he needed help. He just wanted to give you a place to take a shower." Staring at the message on his phone, he was so moved that tears began to fall. It was then that he realized the teacher had been so kind to him for all those years, and he had never known. This teacher not only helped the student through life's hardships, but also thoughtfully and carefully protected his dignity, offering support in every way possible. In dealing with others, integrity comes first. We usually build relationships with someone based on trust in their character. If a person cannot earn others' trust in their character, then no matter how capable they are, it will be difficult for them to achieve great success. A large company was once looking to hire an assistant accountant. The candidate would be interviewed and screened by a human resources specialist. Every day, many people came in for interviews. After several rounds of selection, only 3 candidates remained. However, their qualifications were nearly identical, which left the HR specialist at a loss for whom to choose, so they turned to the boss for guidance. The boss asked them only one question: how would you help the company evade 500,000 yuan in taxes? At that moment, the first and second candidates both said they could create fake accounts. The boss nodded without saying a word and told them to wait for further notice. When it was the last girl's turn, she was stunned for a moment, then fell silent for quite a while before asking, "Must you really do that?" The boss nodded. The girl then politely excused herself, walked out, and gave up the interview. At that moment, the boss suddenly stood up, smiled at her, and said, "Miss, please wait. You are the most honest and principled candidate among them. Congratulations, you have passed the interview." After some time on the job, this young woman was promoted to a respected position as Chief Accounting Inspector. In the Book of Rights, it is written, "Virtue brings gain," meaning that those with virtue will surely attain success. Character is the most effective way to test a person's heart. It is also a form of integrity and the final boundary in the fundamentals of how we treat others. There is an interesting fable that goes like this. God had a special scale used to weigh the weight of one's character. He placed a standard weight on one side of the scale to serve as a reference. Anyone whose weight exceeded that of the standard was considered a person of high virtue and noble character. Anyone whose weight fell short was seen as a person of low character. One day, a poor man arrived, wearing nothing, and jumped onto the scale. The weight was truly great, surpassing the standard weight. God praised him, saying, "Good, you are of the highest rank." Then a wealthy man approached. Afraid that he wouldn't be heavy enough and might be classified as low rank, he wrapped a thick gold belt around his waist and confidently stepped onto the scale. Sure enough, as soon as he got on, he outweighed the standard, but God shook his head and said he was of the lowest rank. The rich man grew angry and shouted at God, "This scale is not accurate. That poor man had nothing, while I came adorned with countless treasures. How could he weigh more than I do?" God replied, "This scale does not weigh wealth or poverty, it weighs character. All else being equal, the bones of that poor man were much heavier than yours. Without the gold, your bones nearly have no weight at all." The most precious thing in life is not how much money one has, but how successful one is at being a true human being. Integrity and good character are the best calling cards a person can have, and also the best kind of fortune in life. 29. Idleness turns us into useless people. There was a young woman who, after graduating from college, got a job at a major company thanks to her high level of education. She thought that life would be stable from then on. After finishing her work each day, she would simply go home and leisurely watch television dramas. Meanwhile, another colleague next to her stayed busy, dedicating time to research and study after work. She would often scoff at that person, thinking their level of education was lower than hers, and that no amount of effort could make a difference. But even though their jobs were the same, both required showing up on time every day and handling similar tasks, it was only by the end of the day that one could truly see whose talent stood out more clearly. So after 5 years, under the pressure of industry changes, the company had to undergo restructuring and lay off employees. Despite her high level of education, she was unexpectedly included on that list. It was only then that she realized physical and intellectual capability alone were not enough when facing the younger generation. What truly mattered was the experience accumulated over many years. Although it had been 8 years since she graduated, she had made no real progress compared to when she first left school. Meanwhile, the younger generation was filled with emerging talent, making it increasingly difficult for her to compete without facing challenges and setbacks. In reality, life is like rowing against the current. If you don't move forward, you'll inevitably be pushed back. In the world of the talented and exceptional, you must constantly elevate your own value. The warmth of lying in bed is never as comforting as the promise of your future. The stories in books always carry life lessons waiting for you to learn. Laziness and greed only numb your experience of life. People often lament that the midlife crisis has made them lose their sense of alertness. But in reality, long before it suddenly struck, you had countless chances to prevent the crisis from ever reaching you. Yet, perhaps it was your choice of the easy path that gave it the opening to strike. 30. Be grateful for life. As children, parents and teachers often taught us to have a kind and compassionate heart, because the most honorable person in this world is the one who can hold on to their kindness. There is a touching story about an American man named Aaron who was trying hard to find a job so his 2-year-old child would not go hungry. One day, he finally got a job interview. He had been preparing for it with great excitement. That morning, with only $2 left in his pocket, he boarded a bus to the company. On the way to the interview, the bus got into an accident and came to a stop, but no one was willing to get off and help. Aaron asked the driver to open the door so he could help the injured person, but the driver said, "The bus doesn't wait. If you get off, I'll drive away." After a moment of inner struggle, Aaron still chose to get off the bus to help, giving up that valuable interview. In the end, the injured person was quickly taken to the hospital and received timely treatment. Aaron shared, I passed up that job opportunity because I can always find another job, but a human life only comes once. At that moment, all I could think about was saving a life. Fortunately, thanks to his kindness, he was featured by many media outlets. After that, he received numerous job offers, including one from a company that hired him on the spot without an interview. His life of poverty also greatly improved thanks to the generous support of kind-hearted people. Kindness is like a circle. If you know how to be grateful and live with kindness, then one day all the good things you've done will be returned to you in different ways. As a writer once said in an article, sometimes kindness doesn't reward you right away, but it brings you unexpected blessings. Sometimes kindness comes back in another form, so you can feel its vastness and richness.